Hey, welcome to the 54th episode of the Pickleball Crew. This discussion this week is going to be on strategy, and Vicky's going to start us off.
Yeah. What we're going to talk about today is building points. We use that term. We talk a lot about shots, talk about winning, when to move in, when to not move in, and that sort of thing. But this is more of working with your partner, trying to actually craft points. Talk about what do we want to do as far as our strategy is concerned, and especially once you've learned a little bit about your opponent, or maybe you already know them and know how they play. It's working together as partners, trying to make sure that you have some things in your back pocket that you can fall back on as developing points, as winners. You know, right off the bat, we think of where the play starts, and that's the serve, and how a serve can help you in developing your point. So one of the things we know right off the bat is that if you serve deep, that's probably the first and foremost thing that you can do to push your opponent further back or keep them deep, so that then you have more time in developing something. They cannot make their move to the no volley line quite as fast either. So anybody else on the serve?
Yeah. So,
Well, I'll tell you what, I agree that most of the time you should try to serve deep and, maybe work on speed and strength. But I think every once in a while, it's a good strategy to short serve. I find that if you do that, a lot of times the opponent will run up and try to hit the shot while they're on the run and pop it up a little bit at you. So that I think a variety of serves is what we should strive for. But
yeah,
I think you should communicate that to your partner. That
Oh,
I think that's one of the big things of our discussion today is how we communicate with our partner. And I think, somehow your partner needs to know what you're up to.
no doubt.
yeah, that's true, Bud. Because if you are going to short serve somebody, a lot of times you're going to get a running weak return if you execute it properly. And if you and your partner are not ready for that, then that's not going to work well. So, Vicki, you're right. The serve starts off every point. Um, Partners need to discuss sometimes. Hey, I'm trying to go to their backhand. um, and then move people around. Sometimes somebody's standing somewhere, you want to serve away from them to make them move. Other times, a good strong serve right at somebody can cause trouble. We've all had that ball that ends up, right center of our core, and you're trying to, backhand it in the center or move. And it can really set the tone for a point between you and your partner.
Yeah, and mixing it up is a good thing too. Don't serve in the same spot, the entire time. Like you're saying, Jeff, move them around. But I think the other thing is to mix up, yeah, whether you're going short, long, also mix up whether you're going really hard or you're going to change it up and do a little lofty or something with a spin. That there's a lot of buzz talk right now about how the serve is going to become really kind of a weapon, and a way for people to really take advantage right off the bat. And one of the things is like a kick serve. And so a lot of people are learning how to put a tremendous amount of spin to either keep it low, low and hard and fast, or have a kick that even if you get right behind the ball, you're shocked because that ball kicks right back up at you.
Yeah, and also after you've put a hard serve on somebody, or your regular strong serve, that kind of a lob serve with a little bit of topspin can cause trouble, especially for tennis players, because tennis players serve it as hard as you want at them. They love pace. They're just bringing it
Mm-hmm.
right back at you. When they have to create their own pace, sometimes that can generate some sort of either a missed return or some sort of weak return. seems counterproductive, but I've seen it work time and time again.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think the key here is variety.
Mm-hmm.
Variety in depth, variety in speed, variety in spin. You should strive probably to have 4 or 5 different serves in your bag of tricks.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
placement. Where are you putting it?
Yes,
Forehand, backhand,
exactly. Yep.
nice little angle, pull the player out. Definitely. So it's going to be interesting to watch because they do say that more and more we're going to see a lot of changes with serves. So, and I know with paddle technology kicking in with a lot of spin, it's definitely, on its evolution for sure. So,
All
yeah.
right, crew, this would be a great place to take a break. And when we come back, we'll continue the discussion. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pickleball Crew. We are a group of pickleball fanatics based in Southeast Louisiana and are passionate about all things pickleball everywhere. Our focus is to inform, acknowledge those who help build the game regionally, and promote tournaments in our area. We do our best to present this with a love of the sport, a sense of humor, and a lot of fun. So join Vicki Wynn, Ken Wynn, Jeff Fuchsia, and me, Bud Klein, in our latest episode. We are glad you are along for the ride.
All righty. Okay. Well, we'll move to the next part. And that is return to serve, right? So again, going back to our staple of what do we do with our return to serve? We want to place it as deep as we can. And again, preventing that serving team from moving forward, playing some kind of, role change or whatever. It's going to be interesting to watch how this has changed and is going to continue to change as well, because you're seeing a lot of people who are now doing more stacking and different things like that. Defensive stacking, not just offensive stacking, but defensive stacking. So it'll be interesting to watch the evolution there. But we do know that by keeping the ball deep, you're not inviting that team to come forward. And yet we also know that the first thing for you to do once you do return it and place it deep is get yourself as far up to the no volley line as you can. Any other thoughts on that one?
Well, this is the
Yeah.
first shot that you have the whole court available to you, and, down the middle is always, the best shot possible in a generally speaking. But here's where you should communicate with your partner on where you're seeing either weaknesses. If you've got a person, the person that's better at a third shot drop, that's not the person you want to return to. You want to return to the other person. So you've got to, hopefully you've been able to analyze your opponents, and either a backhand that you want to go to, you want to go down the middle, create a little possible confusion, or you want to go to the player that you want to keep them back, or that you think may have less success in driving or dropping the ball. That's one option.
Yeah, I had an interesting situation last Friday or Saturday. I was playing with Chris, and we were having a hard time. And he said let's start using hand signals, and we did, and we did it to get his forehand to the middle. So if I'm on the left side, I would just move over. So I think that proved to be really, really effective. And not only because of that, but it really threw the other team off. They were really starting to try to guess, where Chris or I were going on the return of serve. So I think I'm beginning to really believe even in rec play, if you can do some kind of signaling with your partner and move around more than just staying in your same spot, I think that's an effective strategy.
Great.
Yeah, to me, there's a couple things here that you can discuss with your partner. Like Ken said, you can decide which person you're wanting to go to. initially for whatever reason, and that could change throughout the match if one player gets hot or another, depending on what's going on there. And then the second thing, which I can't remember what it was right now. Oh, the second thing is whenever whenever your partner knows, whenever you say, "Hey, I'm going straight in front of me," which we've all done before, it helps you set your defense. If you're playing with somebody and I'm going to return the ball straight in front of me, then the player that I'm playing with can automatically get down a little closer to that tee because he knows the ball is going to be, over on that side of the court, and at least your defense is set for that third, whatever it is, coming back. Versus him not really knowing where the ball's going and may get somewhere, to the spot late. So there are a couple of different things you can do there, and again, it's a fluid thing. You want to stay away from guys that drive the ball really good. If you can, stay away from those strong forehands. And then we've talked about it before, if you've got a poacher, you return the ball to that guy that's going to be poaching, and you'll at least keep him back occupied with hitting the shot for one more shot.
That's right. Sometimes you're a better player too. You keep them deep, and
That's correct.
And again, it doesn't have to always be a hard shot. It can be that lofty return that bounces deep, and again, you may get some kick up off of it or something. A nice lofty top spin shot, and again, you're pushing them back and keeping them deep.
You want to make sure that the returning team, as you return the serve, that you triangulate the ball. So if you return the serve down the middle, then both players will move up to the no volley zone and really tighten up on the tee. And if you return the serve to one or the other corner, then the person who is directly in front of the corner, and their number one responsibility is down the line, and their partner will close in a little bit on the tee at that point. So you're still kind of triangulating the ball, but you're triangulating to one side or the other on the court, depending on where you've returned the ball. And that's all part of your strategy, depending on where you're going with it.
That's right. Absolutely. All righty. So now we can move to our third shot. We're just going to run through shots, and then we'll talk about how we can communicate with our partners in these situations to then, have some fluidity getting through these points, have some strategy that we know we can actually put something into the works that make it easier for us to gain control at the no volley line. But right now with the third shot, obviously, for the longest time, it's just always been the third shot drop. And that's the safety zone, that if you can make that third shot drop, you're creating opportunity for your partner. And depending on where you place that third shot drop, might make a big difference too. And then we can talk about the third shot drive and the fifth shot drop and some of the advantages and disadvantages there. Some people, especially when they're the servers and the ball seems to keep coming back to that server, it may get to be, known that that person has a weak third shot drop. That can be something you can discuss with your partner and say, hey, you drive it and we're going to work on our fifth shot drop. It's that communication again, but between the two. But any thoughts on the third shot?
Well, I'd like to hear you all's thoughts on a third shot lob.
Third shot lob. Interesting.
Well, in my opinion, a third shot lob is, first off, a lob is a low percentage shot overall, and a lob is most successful when you're kind of catching somebody by surprise. And a lot of times that happens in a dink rally when you take the ball out of the air. Everybody's up at the no volley zone, and you take the ball out of the air rather than letting it bounce and then hit a lob over the head. That's one of the most high percentage ways to use a lob. as a third shot, I don't know. I'm sure it can work, but I probably wouldn't recommend it personally.
I, I
Well, I'm not advocating it. I just, I've seen we have a number of rec players that kind of like to do that, from the baseline, lob it on the third shot.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to hear y'all's thoughts on it.
but I think it's a shot, kind of going along the lines of what Ken is saying. Um, can be used very sparingly, and you want to lob it, especially like some players will hit their return, and they don't really hustle up to the line, so to speak. The player that you want to get on that is the one that hits their shot, and they're really intent on getting up to that line, so their momentum is coming forward.
Right.
And then you throw that third shot lob over that person's head. Now they got to put on the brakes and go back. But like Ken said, it's a lower percentage play. But I mean, it's a play that some of the pros, if you watch, they'll throw it in there every once in a while. But not something you want to try to, as we say out here in the country, you don't want to hang your hat on that. But
Well, can I just make mention? Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, getting back, Vicki, to what you had initially said, you need to have a game plan between you and your partner, especially in tournament play, as to trying to figure out who we're going to drop to. Me and Adele were playing the other day in that MLP, and one particular game, it was against Brent and Marlena. We started having it was a thing where we were having success when the ball went to her, she was driving it, and we were having success there. When the ball went to me, I was dropping it cross court, actually to Marlena, and we lost the match. It was close, but that's when me and her did have the most success, and it just happened to be both of us doing something different. Sometimes it might be, Vic, you drive it at, or me or you drive it at somebody, and we see, oh, they had trouble with that drive. Well, then we might want to go at that a few times and see if we can milk some points out of that. So it's definitely, there's a lot of strategy involved there in having a game plan on where your thirds are going to be going. And I want to make clear, you don't want to, how sometimes the ball needs to go a certain direction. You don't want to force it to those places, but when it's comfortable and you can put it in those places, you definitely want to try to go towards that person or whoever.
Right.
And hopefully over the course of the match, it'll you can get it there enough where it'll bring you and your partner out on top.
Right. Well, and sometimes you find yourself on your third because you've got a really aggressive player up at the net. And I found myself in that position today a couple of times where I had to just keep driving. There was, a drop just wasn't a possibility, because that person was going to be there, and you're all the way back trying to make these things happen. And they're just famous for a little dip right over the net. But by driving it further out, you're able to keep it away from that player a bunch. So sometimes it also depends on who that player is on the opposite side up at the net, who's further back and who's at the net. So sometimes you're just protecting your situation and trying to keep it away from that player. Any other thoughts on the third?
Well, and there's a couple of things that no matter what plan you may have drawn up, you may have drawn up to drive at the person who's at the net, not the person who's returning, because you feel like they can't handle your drives. But there's a couple of things that your plan gets tossed out the window. If the returner is still running through their shot, you want to go at the feet of that person that's returning the serve that's running in, or you go right at their body low. So there are some things where all of a sudden the plan is thrown out the window because you've got opportunities to go with your shot that just makes much more sense. If somebody's still running through their return, go at their feet, and catch them. That's a much better shot than maybe what your
Right.
plan might have been.
Mm-hmm. Or they park in the transition zone for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I always, when I'm coaching people, like watching them play and I'm on the sidelines, helping them, I don't think people look at enough a serve that pushes that receiver back and either puts them in a neutral position or better yet, pushes them back because they're too tight on the line. That is a definite cue for the for your third to go in front of that person, and it doesn't. We're not talking about a drop shot, just any type shot that you can make bounce in front of them, and the partner needs to see that. You need to see it together, and
Mm-hmm.
and when I can see, say me and you are playing, Ken, when I can see that person is back and the ball went to you, I'm taking off immediately, and I'm expecting you to make it, to make it bounce, that kind of drip drive, whatever you want to call it, bounce in front of that player, and you gain the net immediately on that. But a lot of times you see people will get pushed back on the serve, and the other team that's hitting the third does not take advantage of that. It's just something, especially at lower levels, for people to really, you want to get some cheap points, really watch for that. At higher
Absolutely.
levels, of course, people are really, they're really in tune with returning their serve and getting to that net. And at higher level, you can expect both those players to be parked at that net when they return a serve.
And as a part of strategy, some of those things that you just have to discuss with your partner, that those are just opportunities that when they present themselves, and it may not be on the third shot, it may be any point in the match that that opportunity presents itself, that you both need to react, in a team like fashion and take advantage of that. That's they're really giving you an advantage there, and so you need to take advantage of it.
Definitely. All right, we'll move on to my favorite, and actually we drilled on this today, and that's the fourth shot. And I just love being in this position because you're already at a position in an advantage role. I mean, you have so much that you can do and you can use based on whatever comes to you. It just makes it a lot of fun. And again, as part of strategy, communicating with your partner and knowing based on where they are, what kind of moves you're going to be trying to make. To me, it's a blast. This is my favorite part of the game is being up there and either getting the drop and then you send a drop back. You've got the roll option, both forehand, backhand roll, which I love using when the people are not moving. They're either parked or they're just back, and that's a great way to keep them deep. I've even had a situation where I rolled it, they send it back and stayed in the same spot. I roll it again, keep you back deep. They did it about 3 times and finally didn't get the ball over the net. But mixing up what you do up there. Now you've got more shots like the Scorpion. You can put that to work up there. You've got cross court options, between 2 players, middle option. There's a lot of things that you can do and a lot of different shots, a variety of shots. Again, depending on what's coming to you. And of course, if it's a drive, you just want to block and try to stay in that point best you can. Anybody? 4th shot.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest mistake I see here, and I make this mistake. We all make it. We always talk about keeping them back, keeping them back, keeping them back. You want to keep people back, but you got to be very mindful of when they are starting to earn their way to the net, because the mistake that gets made a lot of times on the fourth or on the sixth is they've hit a shot that's good enough to get them and their partner to the net, and we've been trying to keep them back, and now we feed them that ball that's keeping them back, and now it's a volley that they can attack. So you have to be really mindful. Yeah, you definitely, like Vic, like you're saying, you kept rolling it back at them, but you need to be mindful whenever they do get that good drop shot. Then all of a sudden, you better take something off of it and go soft,
Go
cross
soft.
court, and just concede to them. Okay, y'all worked your way into the net. You see a lot of points at the 3-5 level end in that fashion, where they're feeding somebody a volley. And we got a lot of players that we play with and against that are really good at taking that volley out of the air and putting it away, or putting pressure back on you. So it's something to be mindful of, and the fix is pretty easy if you realize what's happening to you. You just have to make that fourth shot bounce in front of the other team. When they're back, you got to make it bounce, preferably inside the baseline. But if they're trying to come in, then make that ball bounce. It's a lot harder to be offensive on a ball that's bouncing than it is on a volley out of the air. That's definitely something to keep in mind.
No, I think that's a good point. You have to be prepared to concede kind of mini defeat when people are coming to the net. You may not be able to hit it deep every time, and you hit that little mid court, transition shot, and they bring it back over as a dink. You got to be ready to stay in the dink battle and not think you got to kill it, while they're coming in. I think that's where a lot of people make a mistake. They want to end the point too soon.
Way too soon. And then you're reacting to the pressure of them getting closer to you too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to concede the pressure and play the slow game with them.
That's right.
And part of running plays or talking strategy is talking about that ahead of time, saying, look, if they are able to hit that good third shot drop or fifth shot drop that pulls them in, what is our plan from there? Are we going to try to dink just against this one person, or are we going to try to hit this one person's backhand? Or are we going to try to hit, kind of go back and forth between the two, or play the middle? So you almost want to have a plan that if they are able to get up to that no volley zone, then what's the second phase of how you are going to execute that point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. The other thing is with running plays, I know Vicki and I, when she's returning on the even side and I'm on the odd side and I'm hugging the tee, we've had plans. We've run our plays were that if she's able to return her serve deep to the corner in front of her, and then I'm really going to cheat over. I'm going to cheat over where I'm actually straddling the tee, hoping that they hit a drive that I can then do something with, put away or something. But if they are able to thread the needle down to her, she needs to make sure that she comes in, behind her shot. But we've talked through, what is our return of serve? What are we hoping that they're going to hit for their third, and what's our fourth shot? So I think that's important to kind of talk a couple of shots ahead if you can. Now, deep into a point, the seventh, the eighth shot, you can't always prepare for that, but you can talk about, hey, if we're in a neutral situation where we're dinking, then what is our goal from there?
Yeah, it might be on your fourth or your sixth. You go cross court, which is as those two players are coming up, sometimes it's hard. There's not very much distance between you and the person straight in front of you. Okay, so you go cross court. but then the person straight in front of me is the one that we perceive as the weaker dinker. So then when it's, again, not forcing it, but when we can take the dink and put it back to that person, then once you get it there, you might want to just keep it on that person. If it's a mixed situation where the girl is a weaker, the ladies player is a weaker dinker than the guy, put it over on her. And once you get it there, try to keep it there, keep your defense set. The neat thing about pickleball is there's so many things that you can do to try to strategize, and several of these things we're talking about. Can you do it the entire match? Well, no, you can't. But if you can focus on these things and find a plan that works, if you can execute it 60 to 70% of the time, a lot of times that's enough for the win.
That's right. I mean, and he's talking about when a return, straight ahead. I'll also sometimes, tell him I'm going wide. I'm going to try to go wide. And I try not to do it like all the time, but every now and then throw in a return that is really, really wide. So he now has to protect the line. But also that player, if I have managed to do my job, is not going to get it more than likely all the way over to my side going over the net. They're going to go over the middle of the net. And that's a great opportunity again for him to move on in. So having a few little plays like that you can, just start right off with a serve or return a serve or something are great. But like we're discussing here too, it's also being prepared for the next stage and the next stage, and knowing what happens once if you didn't get that put away, and you do end up in the dink battle. It's discussing and talking about, what do we want to do? And we've been working hard, I know, as a group on moving the other players around, moving the ball around, and not just being stagnant with where we get a comfort spot that you want to put it in a dink battle, but it's really tough to learn and to get away from that, but you have to do it and learn how to move the ball around.
Yeah,
And
talking about running plays, Vicki, and I think we had mentioned that we would cover this, and it might be a good way to wrap up. The shake and bake.
mm-hmm.
You can tell this is a play that you can tell your partner, hey, we're gonna run this. I'm gonna use you as an example, Ken. You got a good third shot drive. Then you walk back to the line, and I'm serving, and we decide, hey, if the ball comes to you, Ken, you drive it somewhere in middle or straight in front of you, and I'm just gonna take off almost before you hit the ball, and sometimes you'll get burned on it, but a lot of times you'll have some success there. And it's a play. We're not really thinking third shot drive, fifth shot drop, which we will take it if it comes, especially if it comes back to you. But we're trying to catch them off guard and get a drive and get some sort of pop up. It has a psychological effect. We've all been in matches where somebody gets that shake and bake going, and they're coming, and your next shot better be good, or that person is going to clean up. And I've seen it work 2 or 3 times. And hey, if the score is 11-8 and that particular play worked 3 times, there's the difference in the game right there.
And again, here's the situation. Here's an advantage when you've played for quite some time. You learn to read what they're doing. Also, it's you can plan out, but if the point doesn't work exactly like you think it might, again, there's that advantage to playing with the same partner a lot, that you then know where they're going. You can read what they're doing, or do they have this covered? Do I need to move in? There's just a real advantage to that. And actually, you can practice these shots too. We drilled on the shake and bake.
Yeah.
Actually, Justin, I was looking for the name of it. We just found another version of it, but instead of doing the drive, you do a dink, and it's a play that you do very much like a shake and bake, but it's with the dink and not with the drive. So,
Well,
Yeah,
um,
really on a drip, a drive, or a drop, you know, if you see the trajectory of the ball that looks good, you know, as the partner of the person who's hitting it, you're heading into the net to try
mhm.
to get either a pop up in one way or another, you know. So
Mhm.
well,
Hey,
and
light on your feet.
here, here, here we go again with you know, a lot of this stuff comes back to drilling. I think a lot of people that'll watch this show, they're going to know what a third shot drive, fifth shot drop is. They're going to know what the shake and bake is. But how many of you out there are actually practicing these things?
Right.
You, you need to hit thousands of third shot drive, fifth shot drops, and do it in a situation where it's controlled, where you can have a high success rate, you know, and bring it into your games. Everything comes back to drilling, Vic.
It sure does.
It does.
It does. There's no doubt about it. It makes such a difference. And when you actually, I was thinking about it, and putting my drill list together for today, that one of the ones we haven't done in a while is the poaching. And you never think about drilling poaching. Why not? Why not? Drill it. There is a drill that you can do to help yourself learn to move over and poach.
Yep,
Um, so just about every part of the game, there's a way to drill it, no doubt.
definitely. And you cannot expect to be proficient at some of these things if you're not drilling it. Now, again, some people don't have time to drill, um, but you can work on it when you get out there and warm up. You know, do 8 or 10 third shot drive, fifth shot drops.
Hmm.
Um, you know, if you got some buddies out there, tell them, say, hey, we're gonna hit a few serves. I'm gonna work on a shake and bake. Do it 5 or 10 times. You know, just throw it in there. The perfect scenario is put it in a drilling situation. But if you can't, get some of it in when you can.
No doubt. And
but you know,
and
going,
but
you know,
uh-huh.
kind of going back to topic of design, strategy, running plays, building points, you know, whether it's a longtime partner or a new partner, a lot of that goes back to just partner communication. You know, if you feel real good about your drives and your drops or your drips, you know, let your partner know, hey, I'm expecting you, if you see the trajectory looks good, I want you in to take advantage of that. So, and we can say, hey, whoever's returning the serve, the other one, let's try to see if we can capitalize on some of this. So just talking it out so that you know, you kind of know what to expect from each other and what each other expects from you. So
And ride the success. You know, if it works the first couple of times, you might try it a few more times. If you try it twice, 2 or 3 times, and it doesn't work, then tell your partner, hey, stay back. Let's drive it and see if we can get in on our on our fifth or whatever. There's no set nothing set in stone here on how these things are going to work, and it's going to
right.
have various effects on who you're playing, depending on the day, depending on who's over there, depending on who's with them. So
And that
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Mhm.
mental parts to this, and that, keeping yourself calm and keeping yourself patient and understand, just like Bud was saying, is trying to end the point too soon. But also knowing that if whatever we're doing isn't working, sort of thing, we need to focus on keeping those first three shots in play, and in the middle, no risky shots. It's interesting to see how many people then get desperate in a situation and then just start going for killer shots or going for risky shots, down the line, cross court, and it's, inches out. And, that's maybe three times in a row. And that's 3 points that you potentially just gave up, that you could have stayed in the point if you just, played to stay in the point and not just win the point.
That's a good point. You know, if your plan is not working, then talk about it, revise your plan. You know, the drives may not work and the drops may not be working. but don't panic and try to force your way through, try to muscle your way through a point. Just try to change your strategy a little bit and see if that works. So, and that all goes with, designing a strategy and running plays and working with your partner to change it as the game is evolving. You change your strategy to try to put you in the right situation.
Yeah, I like what you said there, Ken, because a lot of times the way to try to find your rhythm and try to get headed in the right direction is not to try to force the action. A lot of times it's extending the point, okay, and just hit making sure your shots are in instead of getting in a hurry. And I mean that's difficult at times, but it's really what you need to do in those situations. Watching a lot of pro pickleball like I do, you'll see that where the hands are so good, people are trying to go too quick. And I think they tell each other, they say, all right, let's slow this thing down. Let's stay in that dink battle longer. And a lot of times that kind of gets them going where they score a few points. I've seen that happen numerous times.
Yeah, and watching the pros play, I was watching Ben Johnson and Lee Waters, and they were down 8-3, and you didn't see him panic. You didn't see him all of a sudden try to drive the ball more. They were still hitting third shot drops, still moving into the no volley zone, getting into a dink rally, and looking for their opening. And in this one particular game, they came back to win 11-8. And it's like, gosh, I'm thinking they just stayed so calm. They didn't panic. And they continue to work the point and trust in themselves, trust in their game. So,
yeah. Did we cover everything, Vic?
I think so.
Well, the one thing we haven't talked about, and I think it's how you play to each other's strengths, and that's stacking. I think I'm beginning to be more and more of a believer in stacking all the time. If you've got somebody who's got a strong forehand, if you're two right-handers, if you're a left-hander and a right-hander, I mean, it just makes sense, to make sure that you're always in a position to capitalize on your strengths. And I think stacking is a way to do that. And it should be a part of everybody's game. Everybody ought to know how to stack. I really believe that now.
Drill it.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt of what you just said. It's a mechanism. It's a tool in the tool belt that can help you get unstuck. It might be, let's say 10-9. You've been stuck on 10-9 for 3 different rounds of serving. It's just going side out, side out, side out. Sometimes just stacking and giving somebody a different look. I've seen that work a good percentage of. So,
and you're not always maximizing someone's strength, but you're also minimizing someone's weakness. If you do that, you can use the stack to, both ways. You can capitalize on strength and minimize on weakness of a partner. If you got a partner with a weak backhand, you don't want them in a position where they're hitting their backhand. Move them around, by stacking.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and again, you see the pros do that a ton up at the no volley line where they swap out, and very often the female ends up on the right-hand side and the male is on the left-hand.
Absolutely.
You can cover 75, 80% of the court. And yeah. So
I think one of the keys to success also is just don't let your opponents get comfortable with how you play.
Mm-hmm.
You have to mix things up a lot and keep them on their toes. I think stacking in the middle of a game, Jeff, is a good way of freaking out the other team. All of a sudden, oh my God, what are these guys doing?
Yeah, especially
and they're thinking more about what you're doing than what they've got to do.
I think what we're talking about is way more important at mid to lower levels. This is
Absolutely.
This is another tidbit advantage for the the 3-5s out there above and below that, go ahead and start delving into stacking and figuring it out, because most 3-0, 3-5 people, they don't know how to stack. So if you go ahead and immerse yourself in this while you're a 3-5 player, it can really help you. Bud, you said the main thing there. Teams get used to where people are at on the court, especially if you are stacking. Okay, so if you're hung up, they're used to player A being on the left, player B playing on the right. Then all of a sudden you switch that up. Now you've given them something else to think about right off the bat, if nothing else. And a lot of times that's enough confusion or whatever you want to call it to make them mess up where you score that 1 point that you've been looking for 2 or 3.
Yeah, it's not just always capitalizing on your strengths, minimizing weakness, but it's putting the other team, back on their heels, having to try to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking about what they've got to do to win the point.
Yeah, Vic, we played around with it a little bit a couple years ago, but I've even gotten away from it. I want to get back to it, the shadow stacking.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun thing, especially in a mixed situation. And you can put I'm serving, you put the female straight behind you on the tee, and she gets to decide which way she wants to go. She just tells you, hey, I'm going left or I'm going right. I've seen that cause a lot of confusion, and it just hit my mind. It's something that you could probably introduce to people at drills, and we need to start playing around with it some at rec play.
Mm-hmm. Great idea.
Yeah, I like it. I like doing that. It kind of puts that player that's behind you, kind of makes them feel empowered. Hey, I'm going to decide which way I'm going to go here, and you mix it up.
And again, it takes their focus away from the ball and more focuses on which way is that person going. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They might be used to her going to one side or the other, and now they're thinking they got to guess as to where she's going to go.
Right. No doubt.
So, yeah, definitely something that can be effective.
And no matter what, I think the big message here is to practice and drill situations with the partner, especially if you have a regular partner. Some of the people that you see that play together a lot, I think you guys have heard me describe it before as a ballet. It's like watching a choreographed dance or something, because they just know how to move together, how to move around each other. And it is, extremely important that you practice the way that you want to play in tournaments or, competitive situations. You can't just not practice and show up and all of a sudden you and your partner have, a plan and an advantage. It's something you do have to work on. It just doesn't happen by osmosis. So, and again, getting better and better at it. We all know that, practice makes perfect. It is something that you need to work at and drill on. So yeah, been a fun discussion, guys.
Yep. Good discussion. Take a time out for a coach's minute.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Coach's Minute. Today we're going to talk about the serve for beginners. So let's go back to the baseline. Vicky's going to return them. So a couple of things. We're going to show both the volley serve and the drop serve. So some of the key points for a volley serve is the topmost part of the paddle must be below the wrist. You must swing in an upward motion, and you must make contact with the ball below your belly button. Now, the other thing is you have to have at least 1 foot behind the baseline. The other foot can be up in the air, but you cannot be touching the line with your foot, or you can't have your foot in the playing area. So you'll see some of the pros, they'll have both feet right behind the baseline when they make contact, or you can use a staggered approach. I use a staggered approach in my serve, whatever's comfortable with you. The key here for beginners is making contact and getting 99% of the balls, if you can, in play. So we'll just show you
a volley serve. So it's just an upward swing and making contact below the belly button. The second important serve that was introduced just a couple years ago is the drop serve. The drop serve is basically releasing the ball and hitting it. You can hit it either after the first or second bounce, although the second bounce would be difficult. You cannot propel the ball upward, and you can't propel the ball downward. So it's simply a bounce. The ball can bounce in the court of play. Have to make sure at least your feet are behind the baseline, and it's a drop, and then the same upward swing. So that's it for basics on the serve, and hope you enjoy this. That's it for this Coach's Minute.
And now it's time for Jeff and his Burr Under My Saddle.
You're a burr under my saddle. You're a thorn sticking in my side.
All right, people. I kind of struggled this week. I've been griping and having to come up with the burr under my saddle for roughly 50-something weeks. We've had a few guests come on, and I talked with the crew and asked if anybody had anything, and Vicki brought something up. And Vicki, I'm going to tell you, I didn't realize it, but this is really bothering me. And the problem that I have this week is with life. I'm down there in Venice, and having to take care of work. People, I don't want to do that. I just want to play pickleball. I mean, we can try to figure out ways to to pay bills other ways. This life stuff is getting in the way of my pickleball. And one thing I can promise you, pickleball has all over, but one place that it hasn't spread to is Venice, down there where I work. I'm a long way from anything that resembles pickleball. And I'm down there, I'm in all these chat groups. Hey, y'all getting together and playing this evening? See y'all out there at 5. I don't want to hear that crap when I'm down there working. Okay? So, life, I have a problem with you. Vicki, I want to thank you for. I knew there was something really eating at me, and I didn't exactly know what it is. And I mean, I'm kind of sensitive when I'm not getting enough pickleball. So this week's burr under my saddle, bud, is life. Stop it, life. Just stop it. All right, back to you, bud.
All right, Jeff, as always, that was a great Burr Under My Saddle. And I agree. I can't get enough pickleball, and I hate it when life gets in the way. And I'm retired. Hot off the press, it's time for Ken's tournament previews.
Thanks, bud. Let's talk June. June 15th is the Luke Day Pickleball Tournament at Coquille Park in Covington, Louisiana. We'll put the URL at the bottom of the screen. It's you go to swishtournaments.com, and again, we'll have the URL for it. Registration closes June 12th. June 15th, Pickleball for the Pups. Stacks Pickleball in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. There's over 30 people registered. It's men's doubles, women's doubles, and mixed doubles. It's on globalpickleball.network. We'll put the long URL at the bottom of the screen for that as well. June 20th through 23rd, Paddles at the Plex. So registration closes June 10th. There's over 500 people registered. Go to pickleballbrackets.com to register. June 22nd, 23rd, the second annual Gulf Coast Paddle Battle at Pelican Park in Mandeville, Louisiana. So Saturday will be men's doubles, women's doubles, Sunday mixed doubles. Registration will close June 18th. Go to swishtournaments.com and we'll put the URL at the bottom of the screen. This is the second annual Gulf Coast Paddle Battle. August 8th through 11th is the second annual NOLA Pickle Fest at the Montreal Convention Center in New Orleans. Go to pickleballbrackets.com to register. There's over 340 people registered. And as of now, the pickleball crew is planned to be there and shoot some video and do some part of our segments right from the Montreal Convention Center. If you didn't play in it last year, at least get your paddle, head out there and play. It's going to be on the Pickle Roll, which is a rollout court. And Saturday, Drew Brees, John McEnroe are going to play paired up with Pro to play doubles on center court. September 6th through 8th, this is the UPA, United Pickleball Association State Championship at the New Orleans Hilton, New Orleans, Louisiana. Go to pickleballbrackets.com to register. Registration closes August 31st. If you medal, you'll earn the right to play in the inaugural state championship, United States Championship in Dallas, Texas. October 4th through 6th, Louisiana Senior Games at Stacks Pickleball in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Note that this is a qualifying year for nationals, which will be held in the summer of 2025 in Des Moines, Iowa. We do not yet have a URL for that. As soon as we get it, we'll put it out. October 25th through 27th is the Hollowheel in Baton Rouge. We'll put the URL at the bottom of the screen. I think they're down to a wait list at this point, but you can check it out. Hit the URL, check it out, and see if there's still availability. November 1st through 3rd is the National Pickleball Daphne Classic at W.O. Lott Park, Daphne, Alabama. This is a great venue, a great place to play. It's 12 outdoor pickleball courts. They're fairly new, and they were well done. Go to pickleballbrackets.com to register. There's singles, doubles, and mixed doubles will be on Saturday. So check it out. November 15th through 17th of 2024 is the World Pickleball Tour at Breck Greenwood in Baker, Louisiana. Go to pickleballbrackets.com to register. Registration will close November 10th for this tournament. If you have any updates or want to communicate any information about an upcoming tournament, we'll put the email address at the bottom of the screen. But that's it for Pickleball Preview. Back to you, Bud.
Ken, thanks for those previews. There's a lot of tournaments out there, folks. Let's get out there and let's play some pickleball. And now, if nobody has anything else, I think it's time to say goodnight. Good night, y'all. See you on the court.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, from the Pickleball crew, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next week.
Well, that's it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave any comments and please like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks again and see you next week.